welcome back to my channel. I am Maddie, and I was thinking that, I was trying to think of ideas for new videos, and I haven't talked about this before, but I love to read, and I've read, I don't even remember how many books this year, much less than last year. Last year I read 127 books. March of 2021, I read 29 books, and they're, 31 days in March, so it's mildly concerning, but it's fine. I think I've only read 47 or 48 this year, which is still I'm happy with that, that's for sure. So I thought I would share my favorite mystery books that I read this year, because I went through a huge mystery kick January through April. So I've read a bunch, and I want to share my opinions and thoughts and whatnot about them. Okay, so how I'm gonna split this up is with traditional mystery / suspense novels, which is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, What Lies Between Us by John Mars, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, not sure, there are two E's, and The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. And then for the non-traditional, I have two books, and it is The Secret History by Donna, the same author who wrote The Goldfinch, which was a Pulitzer Prize winning book, which I did also read, and I liked it quite a bit, and If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I really liked both of those books a bunch. And lastly is Dark, because it truly is. These are all three of the Gillian Flynn, or Gillian, I'm not sure, I don't know, novels: Sharp Objects, Gone Girl, and Dark Places. I'm gonna save these for last, but yeah, I'll also include some trigger warnings with these ones because they are quite dark. So the first one of these that I read was The Girl on the Train, and I think I read this very early in January. I actually quite liked it, though I do know that there are some criticisms from other people in the book community, reading community, just because it's it could have been better written, which I totally understand. I just thought the plot was interesting, honestly. It's about this girl who takes the train every morning because she commutes to her job, and so she watches this one couple every time she passes the house, because the house is right next to the train tracks basically, and she's idealized this couple's relationship in her mind, and then stuff starts getting weird, and so she then is even more intrigued, and also doesn't stop at just watching them on the train. She starts actually investing herself into the situation basically, and she ends up going to the police with some information, and then she's in the middle of an investigation with the police about it basically, and I don't know, I thought it was really interesting. I liked the characters, and I think the plot itself, it's not a super thick book. It's what, maybe 300 pages? Yeah, it's 320 pages. So it's a fairly quick read. If you really want to sit through it, you can do it in one day for sure. But yeah, I think I gave this 4 stars. It could be bumped to 3 if I reread it, but from what I remember, I enjoyed it quite a lot. The next that I read, I think, is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. This one is really interesting. I liked it quite a bit. It is about the relationship dynamic of this one daughter and mom, and the catch of the book basically is which of these two people is the crazier one, which as you read it is like so interesting, because like you'll get a new piece of information that like says, oh, the mom is crazier, but then you'll get a new one about the daughter, and then you're like, wait, so these, it's really complex in whether or not like what your opinion on who is like the more like clinically insane one, basically. So the back, it basically, so Nina is the daughter and then Maggie is the mom, right? And Nina has Maggie like mankled, I think that's how you pronounce it, I don't know, man, I only ever read that in books. But like has a like the chain cuff thingy around her ankle, and keeps her locked in the attic that she converted into a bedroom. And she is kept there every single day during the day while Nina is at work, and is like deprived of any basic human rights, which is really cute. And so they have dinner every other night, and that's when you like hear the dialogue between them that's like really complex, and then you also get like flashbacks to different things that like each of them have done to the other, about like why the situation is what it is today, where she's like stuck in the attic. So it's a really, really interesting look at the dynamic between a mother and a daughter, but in a really like, you know, messed up way, because both of them are doing things that normal people would consider crazy, because, you know, the average person doesn't lock their mom in an attic, or keep her chained and tied up, but also like the average mom doesn't, you know, like basically sabotage her daughter's life. So yeah, and so like there are some things that each of them don't know about the other, about why they did certain things in the past that have resulted in the situation they have. So I would really recommend this one. I think I give it a 4.5, but since Goodreads only does whole numbers, I think it was a 4, but I would really recommend it. It was not super long. It's like 350 pages, and it goes in between the perspectives of the daughter and the mom. So like each chapter is different, which I quite like. And then obviously the chapters like oscillate between present and past based on the different people and like whatnot. So I would really recommend that one. I found it to be super, like, it was not hard to read. I kept on, like, it was very easy to get into because you go right into it. So I'd recommend it for anybody that doesn't like the huge amount of setup required for certain mystery books. Yeah. Next one is Rock, Paper, Scissors. It's like foily, I like it. This is the UK cover because I actually got it while I was in the UK, same with this one. But so this one is really, really, really interesting in my opinion. So it is this married couple, and they're going on a trip to the Scottish Highlands for a weekend, at like some like remote location. And the reason that they're doing this is because they have like marriage problems, and they assumed that like a nice weekend getaway would be really nice for each other. And it's basically about all of the different like little white lies they have told each other, and it is like a peek into the like how their relationship really works and the issues that began at the beginning of the relationship that then like made it harder for them to, you know, be okay now. And also the one thing that I found really interesting about this book is I don't remember what the condition is called, but the husband in this relationship cannot like he can't recognize faces, like he can't distinguish faces. It's like a medical condition in which like he's unable to tell people apart. So basically the wife is his eyes when it comes to when he's talking to people, and he's a writer of different novels, right? And so when he ever like whenever he has to go to writing expos or like meet and greets and like also meeting with other authors and stuff like that, she has to always be with him because she has to tell him like who the person is, because even if it's like his favorite author ever, he won't be able to recognize the face. And so it's like white lies that she's told him about who he's talking to, or like if somebody like passes and it's somebody he really likes, but she doesn't want to deal with that, and so she just doesn't tell him. And so it's basically like what that has done to their relationship because of his condition and how the wife deals with it. So I would really recommend it. I think I gave it 5 stars, but I thought that was super interesting because I've never read a book with that sort of like twist where it's like a medical issue, obviously, that like has caused so many issues, but not because like the person has the condition, but because the other person, how like the other person interacts with the one with the condition. I thought it was really cool. Okay, and finally I have The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. So this is a book that takes place in 2 different times, and it's a year apart, but both times in the summer. So it's about this like teenage mom, Tallulah, who left her son, I believe it was a son, I don't know, man. I read it a minute ago. She left her kid with her mother and went to a party with her baby daddy, I believe, and doesn't come back. And so everybody is like, where did she go? She wouldn't leave her kid. Like, nobody actually knows where she went, and there are a bunch of different stories on like where she could have gone and whatnot, because all of her friends like have different stories, and so they're trying to uncover where she went. The house party that she went to was right next to a forested area, and so there's a search party that goes out into the forest, and they don't find anything, but they presume that she disappeared in the forest, and the case is pretty much cold. And then the next summer, this new couple comes to the area, and it's a pretty small area, but they have a private like high school that this woman and her boyfriend, like the boyfriend works at the school, he's like one of the new teachers, and so they live on campus at this one house, and the girlfriend, Sophie, finds this really ominous sign, and then it basically opens up the case again. And so the case is opened and they're searching for her again, and they keep on finding weird little notes that lead them down a path of like a lot of confusion, but everybody's trying to tell Sophie that she should not get herself invested in the case because like it's been cold for over a year, and like there's no information other than the little signs that she's seeing. So it's basically trying to find Tallulah, but also is a bit of a like exploration in between a relationship, like a friendship that Tallulah had, and how that ties to the case, because that's the house that she was at, but the family like up and left like immediately after Tallulah disappeared, and so they're trying to figure out like if they have like foul play, but nobody's heard from them, and like stuff like that. But yeah, it was really interesting. I quite liked it. It's a bit longer than the rest of the books. I think it's like 400 pages maybe. Oh, 450. But yeah, I really liked that, and I would totally recommend it. Okay, for the non-traditional ones, these are actually quite similar, and that's part of why I like both of them, honestly, because they're not similar enough that it's like concerning in the like plagiarism aspect, you know, but they're both like dark academia, like mystery on a college campus situation. So I'll start with If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So this book follows, I think, 8 students? 7. And they go to this tiny liberal arts school in Illinois. And it's basically, they're like the drama kids, and they're the 4th years. And the school that they go to is really selective, and they do cuts every single year. And so they're the last remaining 7 for the drama program, like for acting. And so it's basically a like, what's the word for it? Oh my god. It goes into the relationships of these 7 friends that have known each other for 4 years, right? And it like begins with one of those 7 people being in jail. And this is in the future, right? or like present, sort of, kind of. And then he's telling a story about the past and how he ended up in jail, because at the beginning of the novel, we just know that he was convicted for murder. That's it. And so you go and try and see like what actually happens. He gets released from jail, and then the detective who at this point has retired actually wants to know the story, and since he's no longer an actual detective and this guy is out of jail, he can actually tell the story. And so that's what a vast majority of the book is. So it's a lot of flashbacks, and then the detective just being like, what? But it was really interesting. It's just the analysis of like a murder that happened between friends, but this one guy that ended up like dead, you know, there was like some amount of animosity, but then the like other 6 people had to figure out how to make it like not seem like all of them killed him. And they like, some of them don't know what's happening, other people know a bit more. And so it's like a lot of being left in the dark, but also finding out a lot of really cool stuff about the dynamics of their relationship. Okay, next is The Secret History. This one takes a lot longer to read, in my opinion. It is super interesting because it is the only book I've ever read that is over 500 pages and is only 8 chapters. It's crazy. Like, you don't reach the end of chapter 1 until somewhere in the 60s maybe. Sorry, page 46, which it'll take you probably a good 45 minutes to an hour to read that much, and it's like that much of the book. So there are only 8 chapters, but this book is ridiculously well written. So it's sort of the same situation where these guys, instead of it being like a drama program, they go to a small liberal arts school in New Hampshire. And this one, the protagonist, he ends up trying to join the program for classics at this school, but the professor is really like selective with who he chooses, and so nobody ever actually ends up being able to join the program. And so he keeps on trying to join, and eventually he does. And so it's an analysis of like the friendship between them, but then also like it bounces between like him talking about the past and like first meeting everybody, but also like there's foreshadowing for like something bad happening, but you don't know when and you don't know what. And so it's basically like in-depth exploration, I guess, of the friendship as he tries to join this really tight-knit group of 5. And they're not used to like having another person, and so it's like he's trying to get in, but he also knows that they're not being completely real with him, and then he learns some information that's like kind of crazy, and then he is basically made an accomplice. And then it splits between 2 books inside of it, but I'm not gonna spoil it, so yeah. But it's basically about how betrayal and also like really tight-knit circles can be toxic, but also like very good in some regards, and then like how they all deal with the stress that they're under for both their like programs and also like the rifts between certain people and their friendships. So yeah, I rated that definitely 5 stars. I would rate it 6 if I could. I just finished it last week and I loved it. It took me quite a bit longer than most books to finish, just because it is like rather dense and it's very, thanks dog, but it's very like detail heavy, and so you like can't read it super quick because you're gonna miss something that is like really important later. So yeah. Okay, next are the Gillian Flynn books. Gillian, I literally don't know, so apologies. I'm gonna go with Gillian. Yeah, these are dark. They're very dark. So we will begin with sharp Apodex. This one I think has the like, it's super easy to read. I loved it a lot. And it's only 250 pages, but this one I honestly think has like the most trigger worthy content. Obviously, given the title and also the cover, that's a razor blade, you can kind of assume that like mental issues are going to be at play, but I didn't realize like before actually starting it how much like harming yourself was going to be present in the book. But yeah, that is a huge part of it. And so it is about this one now reporter going back to her hometown because some like murder happened, and her like news agency, like wherever she works, was like, oh, she's from that town, so we should send her back to report on it. And so she goes back to her hometown, which brings up like a lot of memories, and she has to stay with her mom, and she has a really complicated relationship with her mom, and her mom remarried like sometime after she left and had another daughter. And so the relationship between them is like very different because they're like something like 15 years apart, and so she's like 30 something and the other girl is 15. And so it's like a very interesting like look into both like the mother-daughter and other-daughter dynamic between them, and also like trying to figure out why that dynamic is the way it is, and then trying to solve a murder at the same time, which, you know, is a lot to deal with, to say the least. And so she has to both open up like her past to figure out what's happening now, which I thought was really cool. And another like sort of trigger warning, I guess, the mom's a hypochondriac, and like it's heavily implied that, you know, the mom enjoys having the attention when her daughter is sick. So you can infer what you will about that. If you know medical terminology, there is a condition about that, but I don't want to completely spoil it for anybody. Just know that, you know, like the mom, there's a reason that the main character has an issue with her mom. Yeah, that's basically it on the book. It was super interesting, and it had quite the large turn at the end, which I love. And since it's such like a quick read, like I totally recommend it to anybody who has the ability to read it, both physically and mentally, because it is really dark, and I want to make sure that that is clear. Okay, next is Dark Places, which is about this girl, right? So her family was like part of a huge sacrifice. That's how they call it on like the back cover. So it's basically her two sisters and her mother were murdered in this event, where the main character, Libby, who was the one that survived like the women dying, you know, she testified that her brother was the killer. And so there is this like, that's like the background for it and who this girl is. There is this club called the Kill Club, and it's basically these people it's a lot of old people, but people who are invested in cases that they think that there's like wrongdoing in the conviction, or like cold cases and stuff like that. So it's people who have like all of the expertise about a specific case, and they're like, this is my theory, I want to try and help solve it so that like the rightful person's in jail and stuff like that. And so they, like, she is stretched for money, and so she is contacted by them because they're like, I don't think your brother did it. And she's like, no, I testified that he did, like, I don't know what to tell you. And they were like, yeah, okay, but like hear us out. And so she went around you know, going back and like talking to other people from her past and stuff like that, to get money from the Kill Club, because she was getting valuable information that only she could really get, because she has, you know, her name and she was part of like the situation that happened, and so they really want to figure out like what really occurred. And so she has to go back and relive the night like over and over and over, and you know, she has to figure out what actually happened, and then she ends up you know, being on the run from a killer again. And so there's that, and it's like triggering for her in that regard because she has to, you know, she's trying to keep on figuring out what's happening in the past, but also like trying to keep herself safe in the present. And it's like a very back and forth thing because the situation in the present is super tied back to the situation in the past. Yeah, I really liked it. It was pretty good. I think it's my least favorite out of the 3 Gillian Flynn books, but it is still really good. And I don't think my summary did it justice, but it is like, it's a very good book and it doesn't take that long to read either. So yeah. Lastly, we have Gone Girl. This one, I honestly don't think I could even rank these 2 next to each other. I like them both almost equally. Gone Girl is actually based on a true story. I don't know if the other 2 are, but this one is like, well, actually, okay, I don't know if it's based on a true story, but there is a true story that is quite identical to this one. And I've watched some YouTube videos on it and I found that really interesting. So basically it is this couple, a married couple, who moved back to the like town that the husband grew up in, and the like wife isn't really happy about it, and so she's like kind of being annoying to her husband because she's not happy that she's in this new place, and there's nothing for her to do, and it's their 5th wedding anniversary and she just disappears. Like the front door wide open, nobody has seen her, nobody knows where she is, and so automatically the police are like, the husband did it, duh. And so they are like looking at it like it's a homicide because they think that he killed her and covered it up, you know. But he's trying to prove that there was like no animosity in their relationship, which is not entirely true, because the wife has a diary that implicates him quite a bit, and though you don't know if any of it is actually true or not, either way, the way that it looks to the police implicates him greatly, and they might as well just like use it as evidence to convict him. But he is like trying to find where she went because he's convinced that, you know, like she is on the run. She's not actually from, like, not actually, you know, dead or like disappeared, like she was kidnapped or something. He legitimately thinks that she's on the run. And she has this like huge, I would call it like a little bit of an insane issue where like her parents wrote children's books about her. Amazing Amy, right? Because her name is Amy. And so she is trying to be this amazing Amy, right? And so she has like a huge issue with like trying to be like the books and also being perfect, and she's also really spoiled because the books made a lot of money, and so her parents give her all the money, and everybody thinks that he, like the husband, killed her, and he's just trying to prove that he didn't, and then it gets like way deeper than that, because it just like, it is like you learn that she was also pregnant apparently, and so people are like, did he really kill his wife that he's trying to say that he loves, that just found out she was pregnant? Like, that doesn't make sense. And so they were like, I don't know what to do with him because he was acting weird in front of the cameras, but that's also because he was just like shell-shocked, you know, on camera. That's what he was trying to justify it as. And the police were like not really having it because they were like, well, yeah, but nobody like smiles on camera when they're talking about their disappeared wife. So it's like an analysis of, well, not an analysis, more of an exploration of what this dude actually did and also who the wife actually is, because they don't know. And he doesn't have that much, like, he doesn't have that much to say about who she actually is because he only knows her in a certain light, and she was very secretive about like stuff in her life, that, you know, led him to not be able to answer like all of the questions that the police wanted because he literally didn't know. And people were like, okay, if you don't know, then obviously you killed her because like you've been married for 5 years. How do you not know that? And how do you like you obviously don't care about the relationship if you don't care about getting to know her that well, type stuff. So yeah, those are the books that I have, that I really enjoyed. An honorable mention for The Silent Patient. I'll put a little picture or something. I don't know if I know how to do that. I'll figure it out. Picture of The Silent Patient right there. So that book is by Alex something. It's the same dude who wrote the maidens, I think, or the maids, something like that. But this is about a like psychologist dude who is trying to figure out like why this one woman shot and killed her husband and has not spoken a single word in like 10 years of being in a mental hospital. Since then, she didn't say anything to the police, she didn't say anything to anybody, and so he thinks that he's like the guy that's gonna come in and like make her speak. And so it's like that dynamic, while also learning like why, like from her side, like why she shot her husband. And then it becomes a huge like twisting suspense situation where we're like, I don't know who to trust, I don't know what's happening. It's obviously like, it's obvious that there's some like wrongdoing from somebody else in the situation that like the reader doesn't know about. And so yeah, it's really cool. I liked it a lot. There are some people who don't like it that much just because it's not like super realistic, or there are like issues with the way that it was written and like how some people were referred to and stuff like that. But outside of that, it is a really cool plot. So yeah, and I'm like really good at guessing endings for mystery books, and I did not guess this one. Granted, I was like so into it that I totally could just be like missing things, and it might be like a little bit easier than I think it is to you know, figure out the answer for. But yeah, I really like that book. So these are all of the books that I would recommend for people who like mystery or suspense. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.